Hey everybody, how's it going? We are back with another Photoshop tutorial today. This time around, we are not going to be doing something that involves a project. It's going to be like the majority of our videos. It's going to be tips, tricks, and just general stuff that's going to be helpful for you for Photoshop. This time around, we're going to be talking about fonts. How to find fonts, how to decorate fonts, all about fonts. I won't go into too much detail. I'll cover all the basics because if I spent all the time talking about how to edit fonts, would be here all day because most of what Photoshop is just you messing around, tinkering with things, and finding out what looks good and works well for you. So this tutorial will just cover the basics and will get you on track to making your own designs with fonts. To start out, I'm going to talk about how to find fonts. Now, these are my two favorite websites for finding fonts, and generally, you'll find everything you need here. So, for example, I'm just looking through here, and if you want to get some different settings, let's say you want a comic style font, there you go, you have everything you need here that's comic style. I personally don't use fonts like this. I probably could for some designs. Actually, I have KG. Don't really use that, but it really depends on your. I hate ones like this too. I'd rather make my own designs if I want to do something like that. But anyway, this is a great resource for finding fonts. You can type your own text here. Let's try. See if that works. Yeah, look at that. So everything's gonna switch to that one. There's so many different options. You can search a font name. You get the idea. So the other one is 1001 free fonts. Now, I don't use this one as much. Sometimes I have to go to this one if the other one isn't working, but most of the time the other one is. So I don't come to this one too often. But when I do, everything I need is found here. So these two sites really cover all my font needs, and they're really amazing sites. So it's 1001freefonts.com for this first one here that I'm on right now, and the other one is dafont.com right in the corner, as you can see. And you'll find everything you really need here for in regards to fonts. So this next step is going to be how to edit fonts and how to really just mess around and play with them. If you've seen some of my past tutorials, you've seen the kind of stuff I've done with fonts before. So for example, let me just do a quick edit of one from the logo tutorial. I don't remember exactly what shade of blue it was, because some shades of blue look good, some shades of blue just, no, don't touch those shades of blue. So new comic, as usual, that's the only thing I ever use. Just joking, I use it a lot though. Let's see, let's say test. And I want to make it all capitals. So we'd go over here. And there's different types you can do here. This would be lower, upper, and lower. As you can see, small caps. If you disable that, it's going to be like this. So this is actually going to be make this everything capital, but is a regular way you'd write it. So this would be the capital T larger, but the ESNT would also be capital, but it would be a smaller, so it'll look more realistic. If you disable that, it would be like this, but I prefer everything to be capital at its largest setting. So do that. As I mentioned with this changes the spacing between a font. So you can have it really large, really small. It's all really up to you. This changes the spacing between lines. Let's say I had something like this. If I highlight everything and I edit this, this is now going to be farther or closer and farther away from one another. Delete this. Now let's say this font was a bit too short for me. I want to make it a big old font. I can stretch this bad boy out, and now he is a tall boy. Let's bring it back down. That completely obliterated my ears. That sound absolutely drives me nuts. The Windows error sound. I'm not sure if you heard that too, but dang, I hate it. Alright, so that's the basics for fonts, just editing with these settings over here. You can also do all the other edits you want here, regular. For general fonts, you can also find italics and stuff there. But let me get back to this. There's too much spacing right now. Bring that back. Most of the editing you're going to do for fonts is going to be right here. Right click, blending options. Bring this over. And everything you really need to edit a font for a general setting is going to be right here. You have your gradients, so we can put that gradient on there. We can bevel it. Do a bit of bevel. Now, I'm not going to explain what all of these do. It's pretty self-explanatory with just these descriptors here. But if you play around with them a lot, you find adjustments and settings that really work best for you and your projects. So I'm going to do that, and then we're going to rasterize this because the gradient overlay, it's going to cover anything else I'm going to try to do with that. So let me just rasterize layer style. And keep in mind, once you rasterize something, that's it. There's no way for you to go in and edit this text anymore. Once it's rastered, done for good. You have to retype it or remake it, whatever you did. So now we're going to do a stroke. Let's make it white. Change the background because it's not showing up like that. I do not want 13. Make it 5 maybe. Yeah, 5 works alright. Then we can do a pattern overlay. Opacity up a little bit. Pattern, and that is one text style. Now you can play around with the stroke. You can play around with the gradient more. You can do an outer glow. And you get some really cool effects with these, and I'll show you some of the effects that I've done with them. Let me just pop that down and put a black background so you can see what I'm doing here. Oops. Actually, color over outer glow isn't going to work since it's going to be hidden behind the stroke right now, but alright, let me make this a different color because I need to do a drop shadow and it's not going to show up. Let's do red. Lovely. Drop shadow, distance. And always make sure you disable global light, because if this is enabled on everything, any changes you make here, I believe it's just for angle, but any changes you make with the angle, with global light checked, that angle is going to change on everything that's using a drop shadow and has this check marked. So I always like to disable global lights because you make one wrong angle move and everything is screwed, and that is not fun at all. So I do something like that, spread it a little bit, size it a little bit. Let's bring the spread back down. Size. That works fine. And this is just the basic edits here with the blending options. If you want to get even fancier, you can add other stuff to it, textures, other patterns. Let's say I wanted to add a stony texture to it. So I'll grab my stone, bring it over, stick it on top, right click, create clipping mask. Sometimes you might want to readjust it, so I just hit Control T and readjust it if I have to, just to get different parts of it, or move it around as you need to get different parts of the texture into the image. Now do an overlay, and I drop the opacity, just so I can build that texture in there. As you can see, the texture's right there, and right there, all over this thing. If I hide the texture, it looks good, but it doesn't have as much interesting parts to it. So you can do more playing around. You can get other textures, other patterns, really anything you can think of. Let's see how this looks. Get a glass on top of it. Yep, now you have a glassy texture on top of that texture. Doesn't look too bad. Might be something I would use. Maybe not, we'll see. But that's just the basic idea behind editing text. Now let me give you an example of how something more advanced would look. I'll come back to this in a second. I'll show you an advanced example and I might do a small demonstration of it. Let's see. Photoshop, templates. This text right here, let me hide the rest of it so you can see just the text. Hide that. Those cuts there. Where's the back part? Oops, that wasn't it. There we go. So you have this text just right here. As you can see, I try to keep it into a cyberpunk cyberpunkish theme with the different strokes, the outer glow, and then I added these cuts to it. Now these cuts weren't the best, as you can see, they're kind of messy. Because once I made the cuts, I forgot to make a backup, and I don't feel like redoing it again, so I just shipped it out like this. But it's not too noticeable, I guess a little bit, once you move it out. But yeah, it's just a bunch of playing around with effects to give it this certain style. I might actually have the... No, I don't have it saved. I thought maybe I had a copy of the original so I could show you the exact settings I did for that, but I guess I don't. But it gives you a pretty good... Oh yeah, I forgot to mention these. These aren't really that important for text in general, but let's say you're trying to color match and you want the same color scheme. I would use a color... I think it's called a color palette or a matching color thingy-majigger. My mind is blank and I can't remember what they're called, but they're great because it gives you a whole bunch of colors that all match together. And this time around, I was going for a cyberpunk theme, so I got a bunch of colors that kind of match that theme, and that's what I used. As you can see, this purple right here is the stroke, this pink is the main part, and this cyan bluish color is the outer glow. And I went ahead and rasterized it, and I added a pattern on top. So let me clear C overlay 26, it's clear layer style, just so you can see what that pattern is. And again, you can just find patterns online just by searching for them. Let's go back over here and I'll show you how to do a cut real quick. So make sure you rasterize layer style. And if you want to do a cut, you just grab the pen tool, go like doom, doom, and then doom, doom. That really depends. I mean, it kind of is going to be different each time around that you're going to make a cut. So go like that, and then you're just going to move it. So it gives it effect of having been moved around. Now that wasn't the best example. I'll show you another example of how it's done, of how I've used it for something else. So if you have it like this, and you move it over like that, and then you have, maybe that was a bit too much. Then we're going to pop up a Photoshop, assets, it's not what I wanted, line break. I can make this myself, but it's easier to just grab it from here because I already have it. Put that right there. No, don't, make sure it's not overlaid. To re-overlay this stuff. I mean clipped. I keep on saying overlay, but then you can create some pretty neat effects with it. Just mess around, try things out. And now it looks like it's being chopped right down the center. And let me show you an example of how that was used before. Photoshop, templates, wallpaper. I think this is it. See right up top here. It's another thing, cuts. I mean, it really comes down to just messing around and trying things, as I've repeated way too many times and you're probably tired of hearing. But that pretty much marks the end of this tutorial. If you have any other questions, just let me down in the comments. Let me know down in the comments. And I cannot even speak today. I don't even know what's up with me. But this should give you all the basics that you need to go ahead and start working with fonts, finding fonts, just having fun with fonts. Fonts can be a lot of fun depending on how you go about using them and how you spend your time working with them. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see all of you next time. See ya.